Baltimore Ravens 30, Washington Commanders 23. Solid game here. Ravens, they moved to 4-2, their fourth straight win. Commanders fall, right? Is that right? Fall to 4-2?
Yes.
I just lost track again where I'm at.
Losing the game, correct.
Jeez. Oh, it's a good show for me so far. Ravens dominant on offense once again. Lamar Jackson, 323 yards through the air. They ran for another 176. QB Neal's even hurt that a little bit. Derrick Henry, 132 and 2 scores.
We had that email, a while ago that was talking about grading our performance during the shows. We should have
how many times I lose track of my notes and don't finish my thought.
Well, we should have people like the booth should be keeping track of this with like a live ticker. You could just have your score could just be going redder and redder into the negative. 0.5 at a time every time you lose track of your notes.
As the host, I feel like I've got a more difficult job here. I have to say more words. I have to set everything up. I set you up and you just react.
Yeah.
And then if you don't have anything to say, I have to be like, you have nothing else. Mm-hmm. And then I have to fill in. Like I've got a much more difficult job here.
People don't know.
They don't realize
the grind that's involved.
And then every now and again, you just get to like pull out a cool, here's the thing I saw. Let's talk long snappers, or let's talk rugby passes, and you never know where it's going to come from.
I know. People don't understand the struggle.
I'm just setting you up for success here.
Involved in the host position. They don't get it. I'm just saying it would be kind of funny if the producers were tracking our individual
we just had
performances.
Little grades.
Yeah.
We should hire PFF to grade our performances. It's got to come from them, the official graders.
Okay.
All right, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Talk about
the game.
I could talk about. I just read my notes, or you could also chime in and talk about this game as well. It's up to you.
Okay. Well, I think overall Baltimore was clearly a better team than Washington. But for for just another game, I came away extremely impressed by Jayden Daniels. Like he was working from a disadvantageous position on the basis that his defense was not going to stop Baltimore, whereas the Ravens had a pretty good chance that their defense was going to be able to hold up against Washington. But he, again, just kept answering the bell. Like, came out, knew that he was behind the 8 ball, knew that he was going to have to do more because his defense wasn't going to hold up, and did. Like, he looked really good again.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, tight red zone touchdown from Jayden Daniels was good. I mean, Baltimore did underrated in this whole Jayden Daniels unbelievable run that he's been on. The run game has been very good for Washington as well.
Right.
And
no Brian
Robinson.
Robinson.
No Brian Robinson in this game. Plus, Baltimore just did a really nice job up front. I went back and rewatched all the runs for Washington against Baltimore's defense. What you picture Baltimore's defense to be: gap sound, winning blocks,
big bodies,
sturdy, big bodies. Michael Pierce making plays, Travis Jones making plays, Kyle Van Noy setting the edge. They just did a really nice job. So immediately, they make Washington one-dimensional. They played Jayden Daniels on the couple keepers that he had really well as well. They played the edge extremely well. So now all of a sudden, it's a one-dimensional Washington offense, which again, if you're just looking at Jayden Daniels' development and in evaluation, I'm just more impressed coming out of this game, because these are the types of games we talked about coming in. Like, the Ravens beat up on good teams over the last couple of years. They beat up on last year's Lions and Niners and Dolphins, and the Commanders hung tough. So, yeah, I'm impressed by their offense, by Jayden Daniels, their ability to stay close, some of the tight window throws that he was able to make, because the Ravens should be a better team than Washington. Yeah. So it's kind of like a positive 7-point loss here from Washington. And then from Baltimore's perspective, I just thought they were pretty much unstoppable offensively, which we should expect, I think, from a bad Washington defense.
Yeah, I mean, I think it sort of showed the limitations of Washington this season. Like, the 4-1 start, it's got people talking, once you get to the extreme ends of the shouty shows or whatever, we're talking MVP for Jayden Daniels, we're talking winning divisions, we're talking playoff, all these kinds of things. Washington, I think, can absolutely make the playoffs, and maybe they can win the division based off the Eagles and the Cowboys not looking particularly good this year. But I think this game showed the difference between them and a really good team. Like, their offense might absolutely be able to hang with really, really good teams. Their defense is just too big a problem to be at that level. Like, if and when they make the playoffs and they run into this slate of, okay, now everybody's good,
yeah,
that's where we're going to have some issues. Not that Jayden Daniels can't handle it, but their defense can't.
Baltimore was just big play after big play. I thought this was probably the best game ever from Zay Flowers
Yeah.
as an NFL player. Took a screen for 44 yards. I mean, he just kind of ran in a straight line. Isaiah likely had a beautiful block on that one, but Zay Flowers caught all 9 of his targets, 132 yards, 7 first downs in this one. Made plays down the field, made plays after the catch. Mark Andrews with a couple big plays down the field, wide open a couple times as well. So again, I think Washington's defense is rough right now, but Baltimore showed all of the various playmakers that they have. Lamar Jackson, a 33-yard keeper, and then Derrick Henry, putting a bow on everything.
I mean, this was the perfect storm of it's a bad defense anyway. It's also unusually bad in terms of matchups. Like Benjamin St-Juste covering Zay Flowers is just a train wreck before you even start the play. Like big, long, physical corner against small, shifty, twitchy, underneath slot type of receiver, right? It's like, remember when Brandon Browner for the Seahawks, the sort of, I guess, the weakest link of the Legion of Boom secondary, when he got matched up against like a small, shifty wide receiver, it was the only thing that he couldn't really deal with.
Julian Edelman in the Super Bowl.
Right. It's like that's just a bad matchup for a guy like that. So, the Ravens were able to manufacture that a couple of times, and St-Juste trying to cover Zay Flowers was just painful to watch sometimes. But yeah, Zay Flowers looked great. Rashad Bateman looked really good. He had a few of those plays where he was exposing the defense as well. Mark Andrews, who's been sort of AWOL for a lot of the season, had probably his best game. Had certainly a big impact on the performance.
Nice touchdown, and then obviously in the red zone.
Yeah, and then obviously Derrick Henry continues to truck along. And Baltimore, they threw out this stat on red zone yesterday. Remember when the Ravens went on this run of 43 straight games of at least 100 team rushing yards, which was it tied the record with the 70 Steelers for like the most in NFL history. All of the other teams that have been on that list end at the 70s, right? It's like 70 Steelers, 50s Lions or whatever. They're all old school records. But the Ravens with Lamar Jackson went on this 43 straight run where they'd hit that. And then I forget who ended it, but it ended. And they just picked it up again. So they're now back to, they have 2 of the top 5 streaks of all time. And they're a few games away from making that now, breaking that record. And also basically a game away from having like an 80-something run record. Lamar Jackson means you will have 100-plus rushing yards in the game.
Oh, yeah. It's another example of Lamar changes the math on a lot of things because of what he can do as a runner. And his style is unique to the NFL. We've never seen a quarterback have that many design runs. Not like Jalen Hurts has more technical design runs, but they're all the tush-push, like sneak-type stuff. And he'll do a little bit more scrambling than design run stuff. Lamar, as a design runner, had the 33-yarder on just a QB sweep. You got to be able to cover that, and they are finding their groove with Derrick Henry. It's also the second straight week. They get under center, they run toss sweep to the left, and it's Derrick Henry for 27 in a 7-point game in the fourth quarter to win it. That's what they did in overtime against the Bengals to set up their game winner last week.
Derrick Henry, for his entire career, is basically the walking embodiment of every running back cliche that's ever been used in the NFL. Get stronger in the fourth quarter, body blows, all that kind of old school dinosaur talk.
Stronger as he goes. You got to feed him because he's better in the 20th carry than he is the first.
It's all true with Derrick Henry,
yes.
And he's the only player in the NFL for whom that is true. He's the exception. In the fourth quarter yesterday, so Baltimore have the lead. They're the better team. Fourth quarter, it's Derrick Henry time. We got to salt this away. In the fourth quarter, Derrick Henry had 8 carries for 56 yards, with 45 of them coming after contact. Derrick Henry in the fourth quarter just punishes defenses and ends games. That's what he does, and he's really good at it.
I mean, he did it with the Titans. I mean, the Titans made it to the AFC Championship. They got the best couple years out of Ryan Tannehill. Honestly, I think A.J. Brown was a bigger driver of Tannehill's stats, but it was that combination. Remember, I used to call them the dudes, right? Every week, the Titans, either A.J. Brown or Derrick Henry, the dudes, would just make plays and find ways to win. And the Ravens have that. And I kind of wish we didn't see them play the Chiefs in week 1. I kind of wish we saw them in the middle of the season, and maybe we'll see them in the playoffs.
We might see it again.
We might see them in the playoffs again, but I kind of wish we saw it because they felt a little out of sync. They weren't ready yet in week 1. They're starting to find their groove on under center runs from Derrick Henry, gun runs with Lamar Jackson. If Zay Flowers keeps playing like this, because we've joked a lot about Zay Flowers, they feed him screens and he's kind of dancing around and not going anywhere. When he made a move, he was going places yesterday. This is the Ravens at their best offensively when they have all these different style playmakers cooking at the same time.
Yeah. I mean, they look a different offense now than week one, and they're not the only team for whom that's true. But it's extremely exciting for them because this combination of Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry is now really working. Like this Madden, like create a team dream that everybody had. Like at one point, the broadcast was talking like, oh, this front office deserves so much credit for like identifying that Lamar Jackson plus Derrick Henry might equal something special. I'm like, are you crazy? People have been asking for that for years, just as what would this look like?
Absolutely.
It's not like a difficult, what would this be? This might be quite fun. Everyone's been like, if only these two were in the same backfield together, this would be ridiculous. And now we're seeing it.
And again, we're not necessarily advocates for go get that free agent running back, but Derrick Henry has been an exception to the rule, even at his age.
Yeah.
The team, are you done with this game?
Just to
segueing.
Just to reiterate that point, which is this offseason was a lot of what does Derrick Henry have left? Is it smart to go after a running back of 30 years old with his, workload, his history, everything he's done? You're like, the dude has always been an exception, right? And generally, I think it's bad process to chase exceptions, to go looking for unicorns. But I think Derrick Henry has enough of a history now of being the exception that we can say he's probably going to continue to be the exception.
I mean, Christian McCaffrey has been – here's the thing with the whole running back discussion. It's not like if you knew that you had the production of a Christian McCaffrey or a Derrick Henry, if you knew that you were going to get that production, it is valuable and makes an impact. It's predicting it.
Yeah.
That is the problem.
But even Christian McCaffrey is less of an exception than Derrick Henry. Like Christian McCaffrey's career behaves a lot more conventionally in terms of what we know to be true about running back dependency and all this kind of stuff, as evidenced by Jordan Mason coming in and still cooking, as evidenced by Carolina actually having a better productive offense at times when Christian McCaffrey was not in the lineup than when he was. His career he's an exception in terms of there are very few players with his complete level of skill set, and he absolutely adds something to that 49ers offense. But he's not the kind of exception that Derrick Henry is, where the rules do not apply to Derrick Henry. Like things that are supposed to happen to running backs or that people say running backs do, but actually there's no statistical evidence for, Derrick Henry, it's actually true. He is a one-of-one freak show.
Also, just to add this really quick, when you go back through Henry's career, like his first 2 or 3 weeks of the season are never good. All of his worst games are like, oh, he averaged 2 yards per carry and 3 yards per carry, and he went nowhere. And then as soon as you're like, well, running out of gas, running out of juice, Derrick Henry, he's getting too old. All of a sudden he goes for 150 and 199 and 132.
It's like the year.
It is very consistent with what he does early in the season in building up to, being a little bit better by the middle of the year.
The year where Barry Sanders had 2,053 yards or whatever it was, like through 2 games, he had like 50-something yards.
1997?
And then he went on a run of like 150 every week.
Yeah, incredible.
Thanks for watching all the way to the end of our video.
For more great content, click here to subscribe and here to watch another video. We'll see you again soon.